Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko Owoko and I am a lover of arts, culture and everything African. And here we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities and industry experts. Come with me, you're now a VIP.
This is what to expect on this week's episode.
I think for most artists and creatives who are just starting, there's the need for the financial literacy. I feel like somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, we are still not doing a lot more of the literacy, especially when it comes to how do you professionalize by starting a bank account, having a business that you put your money in. How do you save? And can you get your money easily if you have like a tour or something?
Thank you so much for supporting me, man, for the last 5 years. It's been a short but very long journey if you look at the factors like the amount of work that's been put in. So I'd like to acknowledge people like Anyiko, who's been pivotal in my journey as a musician. She believed in me the first time, and she's been around through this whole chaotic journey. I was very passionate about the art. Followed that, graduated, and then I came to Nairobi for the hustle. And I think I've done quite well for myself as a visual artist. But I had a friend, I keep shouting him out in every forum like this. Okay, Lomax is the guy who sparked the fire in me.
Because everything in Africa forward, I should be involved. You should be involved. Every one of us needs to be involved, or else if we stay silent and we don't do anything, then we are pro-nothingness. And that is somewhere we don't want to be. Regarding my performance, I had fun on stage and I really wanted to send a message, this message of peace and love. Because I feel like after all the deliberation, if there's no peace and there's no love, then we have nothing. And so I tried to push that forward with my performance, at the same time have some fun while I sing Shake Your Bum Bum Bum.
Is my talent and my brand at a level where I can start spending at those higher levels? Or am I at the place where I'm still curating and building up my brand? How then do I use whatever is available for me at the cheapest level? Remember, as a financial advisor, what you want to do is to minimize your costs as much as possible. Yeah, it's very nice to look flashy, but if you don't have rent, chaos. So how do you figure out what's at my disposal based on my level?
Welcome back to VIP Access. Always wonderful to have you here. Oh my God. I just couldn't remember last time I was this busy. Your last week has been busy with the Africa France Forward Summit, conferences, concerts, all those things. It's actually quite exciting to see this kind of things happening in my city. And it was nice to attend the concerts. Great to see the likes of Bien, Coster Ojwang, Yemi Alade, Yusundur, Nandi, Abigail Chams, and many other artists performing. I wonder why there has been so much mixed reactions online as to why Kenyan artists, specific Kenyan artists, were performing at the concert. I'm like, really, guys? I am dead sure if Bien wasn't performing at that concert, there'd have been a problem. Guys would have been like, how comes non-Kenyan artists get these opportunities? Where's Bien? He's deserving. We need to sit down with the powerful people who make some of these decisions when we get the chance to. It's not always that France comes to you. Anyway, if you didn't know, the Africa Forward Summit and concert was co-sponsored by Equity Bank. Now you know. So I got a golden opportunity to feature in the second Equity Creator Masterclass. I was part of the first one that was held a couple of months back with DJ EG Online when he was in Kenya. Thank you so much, G-Money, for always dropping me in. So the second Equity Creator Masterclass happened on Wednesday, the 13th of May, just around the week around the France and Kenya Summit. And the thing is, as Africa is moving forward, and so is the industry. So we held a conversation around how to get yourself into the industry, how to get your money on, how to register your business, and most importantly, how to become a business yourselves. The rules for what an African creator can build, own, and earn are being rewritten. And the question is, are you in the room? So this specific conversation I recorded for this podcast. And thank you so much, Lawton, for hosting this conversation and bringing us together. Being part of this esteemed panel was such an honor. And some of the speakers you're about to listen to who are part of the Equity Creator Masterclass include Lawton, who was our host, Yemi Alade, the global superstar, singer, songwriter, and performer, Coster Ojwang, a musician who's also a visual artist, the MD of Equity Bank, Moses Nyabanda, and of course, me representing Anyiko PR Industry Talks, the world of PR, media, and branding. Let's get straight into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome the founder of Anyiko PR. Please let's welcome the queen herself, Anyiko Owoko. The next one, I need you guys to get ready for it. Please let's welcome a multi-award-winning global superstar that's with us this amazing afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, most of us know him as the fisherman. Please put your hands together as we welcome the gentleman with the most aura. Make some noise for Coster Ojwang. Please let's put our hands together as we recognize Olivier from Trace, who's with us. Please celebrate him just joining us this amazing. So Olivier, I will slide to you in just a little bit, and of course, ask you a few questions that some of these creators have. Coster, I'm going to start with you. Homeground. It's been such an opportunity for you to co-create with so many other people. I don't know if you want to share about that.
Thank you so much for supporting me, man, for the last 5 years. It's been a short but very long journey if you look at the factors like the amount of work that's been put in. So I'd like to acknowledge people like Anyiko, who's been pivotal in my journey as a musician. She believed in me the first time, and she's been around through this whole chaotic journey. Above and beyond, I also want to thank you, the fans, for believing in what's happening in Kenya now. The music is kicking it. So shout out to the Kenyan music kicking it. About the performance last night, it was amazing. I've had a time to also break bread with other musicians from other countries. These are things I didn't see coming. So when anything small will be come around, I take it with gratitude. So thank you so much.
Yemi, yesterday was magical.
Yes, it was.
Talk to us about it, just briefly.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for making our time to come to this very important gathering, because I feel like I'm going to learn something today, and you possibly will learn something today. And to track it back to the question, yesterday, even before yesterday, I felt nothing but excitement to be gathered together with my fellow colleagues, musical colleagues, and people who are for Africa Forward movement. Because everything in Africa Forward, I should be involved. You should be involved. Every one of us needs to be involved, or else if we stay silent and we don't do anything, then we are pro-nothingness. And that is somewhere we don't want to be. Regarding my performance, I had fun on stage, and I really wanted to send a message, this message of peace and love. Because I feel like after all the deliberation, if there's no peace and there's no love, then we have nothing. And so I tried to push that forward in my performance, at the same time have some fun while I sing Shake Your Bum Bum Bum.
Now, Yemi, Coster, we'll start obviously with the two of you, obviously being our super mega superstars up on this stage. Where it all started. Yemi, you've been in the game for a while. I mean, Coster is just celebrating his first term. Now, if you look back, and we're going to go straight into it, from when you started way back home, and you look at where you were yesterday, did you see this coming?
Today? Did I see yesterday happening?
From when you were starting, from day one.
Oh, that's a big question. As a kid, I always had big dreams, and I had no idea how they will come to fruition. I had no idea how I would be able to live up to them. But I made up my mind that I wanted to shine as bright as the sun and go as high as the clouds could take me, and just really enjoy the ride while going there. And that's what I've done all these years. I've been in the music industry for over a decade, professionally. Unprofessionally, I've been in the music industry since I was a teenager,
Sunday
13
school.
years, yes. Not my mother's belly. Everybody says that, but no, not me. That would have been something else. But yeah, the journey has been full of experiences. I met a lot of people, and I did not know, although I envisioned it, I wasn't sure that at some point in my life, at every important gathering that had to do with my people, I would somehow find myself there, whether it's at the king's performance, whether it's at the president's performance. But every time that a performance would lead me to being the speaker for my people, my career has taken me there. I did not see it transforming into that, being a sort of unofficial leader for the people in a way, but I knew that I wanted to be someone.
I mean, you've mentioned something that's very critical because a lot of guys here, young, ambitious, I mean, they're looking at themselves and thinking, I'd want to be where Yemi is in 10 years. Let's talk about it from when you went pro. I mean, what was your ambition? I mean, sing good songs, dance to great music, perform for the president, make money. What was that initial drive when you said, you know what, I'm going to go for it?
So I won a talent show. A friend of mine enrolled me to participate in a talent show.
Correct.
She was just tired of me singing around the house and making noise. She's like, do something with this talent. And you're singing here in the bathroom, singing in the kitchen. I ask you a question, you respond while singing. Go and do this talent show. So I won the talent show, and that was my first conviction. However, I just knew that I wanted to have fun while doing this. And that's what I've focused on, having fun, enjoying the ride, because I don't know what's next. And that's the thing, same thing with music. You just don't know what's next, but just be ready, be prepared.
Just go, be ready, be prepared. Let's talk to somebody that has been ready, been preparing. Costa, you're multi-talented. You're a great artist, but I think you're an even better painter. So, music, art, where was the nexus, and how did this all come together?
I grew up in the village. I've told this story so many times. I grew up in Migori, and being a musician was not one of the things I wanted to do. It's not one of the things I would deliberately choose to follow like that. So I wanted to be a doctor. Shout out doctors in the house, aspiring doctors.
Maybe Moses, looking like what?
So when that didn't look achievable, I joined an art school. So I followed that. I was very passionate about the art. Followed that, graduated, and then I came to Nairobi for the hustle. And I think I've done quite well for myself as a visual artist. But I had a friend, I keep shouting him out in every forum like this. Okelo Marx is the guy who sparked the fire in me. I've never seen anyone as convicted in music as Okelo. He was broke, ragged and dusty, but he knew he only wanted to do music. And I found that very admirable. So he kept dragging me along to their concerts where I was performing, and I loved it. He knew I could sing. So as Yemi had put it, I joined a group and enrolled in a competition, and I failed. I didn't win. She won me, I failed. So that sort of gave me the freedom to go and just do my thing on the side. And then I wanted to do music that would feel like the village, yet also washed enough to feel like Nairobi. Because I was living in Nairobi at the time. I'd been exposed to jazz and all this kind of music.
Yeah.
So I think that fusion showed up at the right time. And I happened to meet, there's also power in building a tribe of people who believe in what you're doing and find meaning in it. So that happened for me, not deliberately, but there was chance, preparedness, and the right product hitting the market. So that grew exponentially. We played small shows and then it grew and grew.
And for you, it's quite interesting. Before Moses, I bring you on. I mean, I've talked about your art. I've talked about you now being a superstar musician, but you're also a footballer. You're multi-talented. How did you know that, as much as Okelo was pushing you on, how did you know that this was the right direction? Were you scared to think, maybe I should hold on to the music and play football and then come into music a little bit later? Or maybe I should just do art and then sing on the side? I mean, did you try all of them at the same time? Because a lot of people probably are in that valley of decision where they're thinking, well, I was about to bring in education, but you get the drift, where there's path A, path B, path C. You were quite not too sure which one you're best at this particular moment, and you're not quite too sure which one will work out eventually. Was it a risk?
I wasn't sure. I loved football. I still love football up until now. However, I didn't see how I could flip football because I've seen poverty. I didn't like it. So I was not sure of how I could flip football fast enough and put some bread on the table. So when I followed art, I knew if I could do some small pieces, it's visual. I don't need to convince you that it's good. You'll see it, then you'll see the value, then you'll buy it. If the music touches you, you'd know how you feel and you'd want to come to the gigs. So that's how I kept my corner. And then I couldn't see how the gap of not playing football if I had an injury, what would that mean in terms of me feeding the people back at the village? So
So for you, it was all about food.
Yes, food at the time. Yeah, at the time it was food. Which I think is why all these people are here. They want to feed themselves.
Is it about food?
It's part of the motivation. You need to feed to sing. If you can't sing with an empty stomach, it's terrible.
Yemi, was yours about food as well?
100%. Ask anyone that knows me here. Me and food, we go together very well. Someone asked me, when we were walking in here, a gentleman asked me, so where are you based? I'm like, I'm based in Nigeria and also in Atlanta, but I'm wherever the money is. It's all about the food.
Where the bread is.
Yes, where the bread is. Exactly. So,
Moses, all these creatives are talking about food.
Sure.
You probably count food every day. Context here being the money.
In a certain way.
Let's talk about why Equity is very involved and very interested in, obviously, a lot of these creatives.
Thanks a lot, and great to see you guys. And it's all goes back to what should we as Kenyans, Africans believe in. Food, as we've called it here today, is the most important thing. You can never eat your talent. Talent does not equal wealth. So when we thought of how then do we support a number of us in transforming that talent into wealth, we thought probably one of the best ways is to get together in such a masterclass and be able to share ideas. And I loved what we're hearing from Yemi and Costa so far. It's critical, guys, that whatever you have as your talent, and I'm sure the two panelists here will tell you, you need to change your mindset to think of how do I turn it into a business? When we're talking about food, every intentionality you have with your talent is how do I transform it into wealth? And that's a discussion would really want to drive across today. That's the discussion that as Equity, yesterday at the concert, we did launch our creative proposition where we are looking to support the creative industry in a very big way as Equity Bank. We'll become a systemic bank. We need to ensure that then we're able to create ecosystems that support everyone in here in this room. And that's what I would want to discuss today.
Now, I'll ask you just to hang in there and bring on Anyiko because we've talked about the food, and now I want us to segue into the meat of this discussion, which is the creatives, two on stage, and of course, the several hundreds that are going to be watching this a little bit later. Us as creators and say, you know what? I want you to do A, B, and C so that you can come to the bank and more or less become credit worthy. You've handled a lot of artists in your lifetime. What should a bank like Equity or financial institutions in this country and of course throughout the continent adjust to understand creators? Creators for the longest time have been forced to adjust the banks, but what should banks do to adjust the creators?
First of all, thank you so much for coming in record time and ready to learn. I think that's the attitude that we need to have in the industry. And it's really inspiring to see you all here. Number two, to your question, I think it's important to think of the infrastructure around the artist. And I think at different tiers of artists have different needs for what they need to scale up. And I think for most artists and creatives who are just starting, there's the need for the financial literacy. I feel like somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, we are still not doing a lot more of the literacy, especially when it comes to how do you professionalize by starting a bank account, having a business that you put your money in, how do you save, and can you get your money easily if you have like a tour or something? So I feel like those are some things that Equity can do in terms of educating us more, the young ones in the industry, and even some of the older ones in the industry still need this education. And then helping support for some of those small things that sometimes it's hard, like moving around, even just nationwide. Sometimes it's really difficult for artists. So
even helping some artists with some local tours and using that opportunity to also reach other youth in the grassroots. Because most conversations are in Nairobi or on a podcast or on social media. But what about all those people who are not having smartphones and are not watching all this content? How can they save? How can they start their business in the small creative scenes that they are in? And I think there's a lot of things that are happening. There's just more that needs to be done. And of course, there's a new thing that has been launched by Equity Fanikisha, which you'll all be seeing more about, something especially for the women. We need more of that. Equity is doing it, and I would say they're really doing a good job at that.
Interesting that you've mentioned financial literacy. I mean, I'd want to know a little bit later from probably Yemi, but I'll start with Costa. You're a village boy. Said it so many times, and I'm going to go there right now. When you got your first big check, I mean, did you buy goats? I mean, I'm trying to imagine it, because financial literacy from an artist's perspective is different. I usually tell people sometimes, like Yemi just said, it is a bread. Especially if you're coming from a very less privileged background, you never want to go back. And you literally do everything to never go back. Talk to us about, for you as an artist, when you hear the word financial literacy, what does it look like?
I'll circle back to your first question. I didn't buy a goat.
You actually bought a goat?
No, I bought a TV.
You wasted your money on the first go?
Flat screen. So I bought a flat screen TV. Now back to your question. I've been trying to constantly check my surroundings and find smarter people than me. Because I know there's a lot of things I don't know because of the limitations of school and learning. So I try and acknowledge smart people in the crowd that I am in, and I pull them close and I ask them questions. So that's really helped, because when you recognize that, people genuinely want to work with you and want to grow with you. So when I don't understand things, I'll just ask questions. Man, how does this money thing work? And then a lot of things, I run a festival. There's a festival we curate. We've upscaled it now to around 7,000 fans each edition that we do over December. So when you're doing things like this, I have someone who's checking the money you're spending. There's someone who's checking what is left. There's someone who's checking what comes in. How do we share that?
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with me. Of course, I'll cross-check and see if they're stealing from me. But I kind of trust their judgment of that, because they know how that field works a lot more than me. I know how to curate the stage. I know which artists to talk to. I know how to make the performance and the whole event sit well concept-wise and the stories around it. The money side, I let them do it. Lakini niko hapa nawaangalia.
So surrounding yourself with...
If you're smart enough, you can do it alone. I'm just saying I'm not smart enough.
Yemi, are you smart enough?
No, you can never know it all. I believe that I am constantly learning. I feel like I'm a sponge. I need to always learn. The minute you stop learning, you're done. Like, life is going to play a big trick on you. And by the time you discover what has happened, it might be too late. So I really do like what you said. You do surround yourself with people who are smart, because I think that is a shortcut to life. Because that way you get to learn experiences from people who have seen the life, so you don't waste your time making mistakes. Maybe just fewer mistakes than you'd have made. And
Like
that's really cool.
Like the TV.
No, the TV is cool. So you can actually keep abreast of the music and everything. The TV is really cool. The goat, you would have eaten it in 1 week. So the TV is good stuff. But for me, in general, financial literacy is ever evolving. It's something that you keep learning. There's new ways to invest money. There's new ways to make money. There's money that can be made while you're asleep, passive income, with money that you've kept, like buying mutual bonds, etc. There's a lot of things that we musicians don't share with each other. You can actually convert your money to certain currencies, give it to the bank, and they use the money to make money for you. And you, while you're asleep, you are making money. But the number one thing I would say when it comes to finances is that you are your biggest financial investment. You must be comfortable in investing in yourself before you walk up to Costa and say, please invest in me. You must be comfortable to take your 3,000 Kenya shillings and actually use it to pay a producer to do a song for you and say, yes, this is my song. Before you go and meet Anyiko and say, Anyiko, pay this for me. You must be confident that you are your biggest financial investment, biggest financial risk. The minute you recognize that, I believe you start to flow in the right decency.
Can I add something?
Yes,
I just want to add on to something she said. I think one thing that I've also seen that is missing from a lot of artists we've worked with is putting back some money that you spend on yourself, on your art, in your business, in your craft. For example, shooting music videos takes a lot of money.
when you get paid to perform somewhere,
You should see Yemi's face. It's like,
it takes a whole lot of money. Even styling, when you're being booked for a gig, you can't just go wearing pajamas. You have to pay the stylist, you have to make clothes. So you always have to factor what it takes for you to have a brand, to have that personality, or to keep your business running. So if somebody pays you 500 shillings, of that 500 shillings, it must go back to how you look and the thing that will continue to sustain your brand. Does that mean it's more content? Does it mean it's a music video? I don't know, whatever it is. And a lot of artists receive the money and spend it on whatever.
is it like a percentage? Let me interject you. So you've made 100 bob,
Yeah.
100 shillings. Is there like a percentage you say 20%?
I think
should
at
go
least
back into the
20%,
craft?
and you guys
80,
can't.
I don't know. Is there like a formula around it where you don't burn $1 million saying, you know what, I'm investing in self? I mean,
That lot, and it depends on where you are. If you're just starting off, probably your biggest pain is how do I stretch it to my next gig?
so rent becomes the biggest self.
Rent and little food becomes the most important one. How do I stretch it to the next one and position myself for the next gig? If you're in her space, then we are talking of the stuff you're talking of, investment products, etc. And you have to be real with yourself. Is my talent and my brand at a level where I can start spending at those higher levels? Or am I at the place where I'm still curating and building up my brand? How then do I use whatever is available for me at the cheapest level? Remember, as a financial advisor, what you want to do is to minimize your costs as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's very nice to look flashy, etc.
Instagrammy.
But if you don't have rent, chaos. So how do you figure out what's at my disposal based on my level?
No.
And that's something all of us have to be honest with. And even when we talk of every other business, even this hotel, if I was to look at them, the first thing I look at, are you spending more than what you're making? The incomes at especially the early stage are very erratic.
Yeah.
So being able to be cognizant of that and figuring out how do I stretch it is actually the financial literacy we should be talking of.
And you're perfect where I wanted us to go, because part of identifying where you are is putting a team around yourself.
Correct.
Now, Costa's mentioned he surrounds himself with smart people. Yemi, you've had one manager all your music career?
Yes, one business manager.
One business
However, I have
manager.
several managers.
One business manager
Yes.
all your career. How do you constitute a good team? And when do you constitute? At what point do you constitute a good team? Anyiko's brought in a very important thing where probably 10 years ago, there was not too much pressure of a stylist. I mean, as long as you looked good, you can go to a shop, buy your outfit, and move on with life. Now, 2026, how you look, how you sound, I mean, it just goes deeper and deeper into your pocket. Where's the balance, guys?
What has worked for me, which I think a lot of you guys might want to emulate, because I've seen it work with Kodong Clan as well. There's people these days, I don't know if it used to be like that back in the days. There's so many talented people who can help you carve an identity without spending too much money. And they're at your disposal. What I used to do is go to a lot of gigs and look for these people and talk to them, see why they're doing what they're doing and how are we connecting, at what point are we connecting. Then now you'll find the value on your angle and the value on their angle. And if you can match that, you work with them. However, you can also find, I think that's why Yemi has had one business manager for the longest time. You can find people who see value in what you're doing, not for now, but for a few years to come, and they're willing to be patient and to watch that go. However, that comes to a lot of trust and integrity. So if you lack those two, that might be a tough tree to climb. Doing art, I think, has opened my eyes to cool things. So you see something, you recognize it, and you can see value in it, and you find a way of working with that before it blows up and then you can't catch it.
Anyiko, you're a publicist. You cost money. Even when I'm
PR.
starting, PR is expensive. A lot of expenses. I mean, somebody is here, is a creator, and there's usually this perception that unless Anyiko is holding your hand, you can't cut it. What would you tell these young creators?
I think it's very important to learn to do it yourself. You are open to learn, but you're confident enough to know this is what my art is and this is what I need to improve on myself, or this is how I see my vision or brand growing. Because if you don't understand yourself like that, you could have people, managers who will try to, or labels who will try to change you for what they want to change you for. And I don't know how sustainable that is. And then in terms of growing your brand, growing your PR, growing your legacy, it's an everyday job. A publicist comes on board to amplify the project that you're doing yourself. I mean, of course, there are instances where you can have a long-standing publicist, like my work with Costa, with Yemi, with Sauti Sol. So it's good to find your person. Maybe it's not a publicist, but it's somebody who you can tell, I want to hit these stations. I need you to go at Homeboys at Radio Africa and stand there at 10 a.m. when Lotan is leaving and get his contact. That's how I started to become a publicist. I didn't wake up and I was a publicist. I had friends who wanted to get into the industry and nobody knew them. They didn't have any song recorded, but we knew where we wanted to be because we were watching the beat. Unaona the beat, unaona imeandikwa DJ Pinye. You're like, I want to meet this Pinye, but we didn't have Pinye's number. I literally remember just standing outside Nation Center, waiting for some of these people to come out and introducing myself to them, getting their contact. So you can also do that. And I want to shout out the artists who came before all of us. I met Red Sun yesterday with Taye, Yemi's manager, and I almost bowed down. Let me tell you what used to happen before streaming, before YouTube. These artists you're seeing, they used to walk to KBC and call me when I used to work at KBC. Please come, Mad Tracks, Nameless. They come to the gate and they call you and say, please come pick my new music video. Imagine. But now artists don't want to call Lotan and ask for opportunities or something. They're like, oh, my publicist has to do this. Yes, your publicist can do this. But I feel like we also need to open ourselves up as an industry and not be too big to ask for help, not be too proud not to collaborate, you know. And that's how to start.
Please put your hands together for Anyiko. I think that is phenomenal. Some rare gems there. Yeah. You can't be too big to ask, not to ask for help. Yemi, do they still make artists like you in 2026 in terms of, I mean, she's talking about aggression. And I can imagine some of the stuff you did to become the global household name that you are. Do you want to share a few of the good things you did?
Ooh, not the bad ones, just the good ones.
Just the good ones for today.
I think I just learned something from what she just said. You cannot be too big to ask. And I think I need to activate. Please, I need help. Oh. My new album is coming out in a few months. So please make sure you listen to it when it comes out. Oh. Hey, I beg you. Thank you, sis. Wow. When I look back at my journey when I started, I remember people always wanting me to, attend events and sing covers because I love Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston. So I will always sing Whitney Houston songs. I Will Always Love You, of course. You know that's the one. And Mariah Carey songs for these events because my own song wasn't popular yet, but people knew I could sing. And so when I did that, I was gaining momentum. Then I covered a particular song called Don't You Worry, Child. See, heaven's got a plan for you. I did it in another language. And all of a sudden, people that weren't listening to me started listening to me. So I took my pen and my paper and I, first of all, put into Google, how do I become a global superstar?
Like Googled it?
I Googled it.
Wow.
And Google said the best map to follow would be to, first of all, be popular on your street, then be popular on the next street, then be popular in that community, then the neighboring community, then possibly the local government, then the state, then the neighboring state, then a part of that country, then the country, then move on to the next continent. I was like, hey!
This is Google.
This is Google. That was a paragraph Google pulled out for me. I said, okay, so how do I achieve this? And I started putting out these covers, and that's when that song caught on. And so what the song did, because I was, Google had given me a map, right? So what the song did, it started catching on my streets, and then the next street. And then I noticed that all the radio stations in Nigeria were playing the song. Because on Twitter, when a radio station plays your song, they will tweet, now playing Yemi Alade's cover for Don't You Worry Child, blah, blah, blah. And I told my manager, please, let's abandon this song and go on a Nigerian tour.
With
So,
that one song.
with that one cover. It wasn't even my song. I just wanted to establish contact with people that I've been trying to establish contact with for a long time. I wanted the radio stations to accept my music, but they weren't really, moving as fast as I wanted them to. But the cover saved me. And so I moved from state to state. Guess what? I didn't have a penny to my name. So I would perform these covers in maybe Lagos. Or let me start with Uyo State. I'll perform the cover in Uyo State. And they might give me 20,000 naira, which is barely $25. They give me 20,000 naira. And that's what myself and my manager, my business manager, Mr. Taye Aliyu, we would use that money to enter a bus to the neighboring city. We would be following the Twitter tweets to know what states to go to. And along the way, at the end of this tour, I met an OAP who asked me, Yemi, what's going on? When are you going to make a song that mentions someone saying? Because all the guys are saying, I'm looking for Caro. When are you going to do yours? Mention the guy's name. Why are you ladies so shy? And I'm like, okay, I'll try. And so I leave Abuja and I go to the neighboring city, which is Enugu. And in Enugu, I meet a certain producer called Sele Bobo on the beat. And Sele Bobo had an issue with his, and this is a little personal, but he had a little issue with his uncle because his uncle said, you're playing music too much. And so his uncle locked up his studio. And so he wasn't able to produce for about 3 months. But when I arrived, he said, let's do something. So we went to a neighboring studio. If you see this studio, it was like a box. We were just hanging. Thank God the mic was working. Hey, what about the smell? Hey, you can tell that legends have been there. But somehow we had to record this song because also I had nowhere to go, I needed to spend the day and the night there. And so Sele Bobo started cracking up the beat. And all I could think of was that OAP in Abuja who told me, why don't you use a guy's name to sing? And suddenly, I'm looking for my Johnny. He's doing his thing. And by the time we're done with this song, because we started at night into the next morning, by the time we're done with this song, and I had to leave to Lagos because I was and I'm still based in Lagos. I fell asleep and woke up and my song was already released. It leaked.
Overnight.
I did not release the song. It leaked. And I started following my map again. I started seeing that the song was blowing up in this place and that place, and then in Kenya, and then East Africa, and then Paris, and Europe, and then America. And the map that Google had given me was coming to life because I believed in the craziness.
This little goes, wow.
I'm just saying that sometimes you have an idea, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you think you know it, but you don't. But I'm just saying, take a chance on yourself. You are all you have. And go at it with all you have. And I think something that Costa said and I said is that he was with a friend of his, your friend who's a musician, that pushed you to sing. My friend also pushed me to sing. You must surround yourself with people that believe in you. If anybody doesn't believe in you, they have no business being in your circle. Those are the dream killers. First of all, take out the weeds around you and focus on the one person or two people that water you. You can't grow in an environment that is against you. And I go with this slogan from day one: go only where the love is. Only where the love is, and just watch your life blossom. Even in the hard times, your life will blossom. So, yeah.
Wow. Full sermon right there. Moses, we've been told to follow where the love is. Do you love these creators?
Certainly. We've built Africa and even in Kenya using the traditional setup. We've focused ourselves on manufacturing, real estate, etc. A lot in the future will have to be a mix of both. We are so rich in culture and talent as a continent that if we don't mind that, then we are losing a massive opportunity. If you look at progression of where the world is going, a lot of the things we do currently would be less meaningful, but the richness of the soul, which is what the creator aligns you to, and the creatives then align to, we can't survive without the creative economy. So where we sit as Equity, we are really looking at how do we co-create products that fit into you. It becomes very difficult if someone walks into a bank just like that and say, fund me. But if there's a concept around it, an ecosystem around it, it becomes very easy. Your first funders are always your family, friends, and at times fools who back you up. But the next phase of it has to truly be a financial institution and Africa financial institutions. So what we are doing as a bank is first setting up a dedicated creative department, because our mind has always been the old school way. So right now we are thinking of how do we set a creative department with us.
And this is a full-on just for the creatives.
Just for the creative. And I don't know whether Zippy is in the room. We've hired Zippy specifically to deal with creatives. And one of the bigger challenges as we work through this journey is the question is, which is always thrown around, are you bankable? Everyone's idea is bankable. And we've seen that as a bank. Yemi, you probably don't know the story of Equity. We were able to transform this economy by banking anyone.
They're unbankable.
Anyone could walk into the bank just with your ID. We need to do the same for the creative environment and ensure that all creatives, if you have a good idea, I can be able to figure what your cash flows are. You should be bankable. We can work with you on how does this shape for your specific one.
Yeah.
But everyone should have the courage and at times the audacity of what you hear to walk in and say, I need help. How do I get this thing going? So part of the work Zippy will be doing is actually advisory. So the discussions we are having in here is advising you, this is my gig. I may be a musician, we have musicians on stage, or I could be another creative. How do I transform that into an idea that I can monetize? Because end of day, that's what we need to do. Then how do we structure your cash flows? Knowing the variability that we do have.
Yeah.
You probably just need an equipment. How do I find you at the back of that equipment and know that you won't pay me every month, but in every quarter or so, you'll have a gig that will pay me back. So it's figuring how do we become as agile as possible and ensuring that we understand you as an artist. If we don't get to understand what it is you're doing, we won't bank you. But if we spend time with you guys and understand what are you doing, how are you looking to monetize, then it's very easy for that idea to be transformed to be bankable. What's our role as corporates? For you to pull what Olivier pulled yesterday, you need backing of significant corporates. And that's what transforms then the value that we get to see. So we do have a dual role. One is big corporates to ensure we're putting our money where our mouths are, actually. Then supporting them through advisory and ensuring that then we're able to co-create products. It won't be the usual stuff that we do. So we need to figure how do we do it? How do we also ride a lot around technology as you get to do that? If you're streaming on YouTube, how do we as a bank support that we're able to see your stats?
Yeah.
And what do those stats mean to me when I'm credit scoring you?
Yeah.
Because at some point, you may be starting and those stats on your hits and subscribers will turn into value. How do I walk with you through that journey and say, today, Lawton, you're only worth 5,000 of credit, but let's walk this journey this way. In 3-4 months, that's 50.
You can increase your credit score. Maybe in one of your offices, in one of your spaces within the office setup, not just have a creative space where we can come and record podcasts, but have a facility where upcoming artists can come and get affordable space to do their own craft, where it's a performance center, where it's equity center, whatever you guys will call it. But it's an opportunity and a platform where I can, at this particular juncture or this particular moment, I can only attract 200 people. And it's a space where I know Equity can give it to me, not really for free, but a much reduced rate where I have audio visuals, where I can start honing my craft and start trusting the bank. What do you guys think? Yes. Right? So instead of now going to KNT, they tell you it's 80,000, 40,000, you're just thinking, my goodness, I didn't eat yesterday. And I mean, Yemi, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Zippy, what about you? What would you like to tell the creatives?
One of us has said earlier, and our MD, that we will take time to co-create things together. We will not sit somewhere and just ask for a pay slip or ask for your bank statement. I'm looking at the room and I'm seeing how young you are. I know how creative you are. How can we come together and see that which you need? Which are the gaps that are there? Where can we start small? If you're already somewhere, how can you scale it up? How can we reach people who are not in Nairobi as well, like she said earlier? But most importantly, we are also not just looking at you growing in Kenya. Today you're here and you're starting. Someday you will be growing in another country. Like Yemi said earlier, someday you'll be a superstar out there. We want to be able to walk with you and celebrate you as you grow. So yes, I agree with you. There's lots we could do together. We just want to leave it plain and open it up to lots of ideas. I wanted to share my number because everybody wants me to type 0722 490 856. Text anything you're thinking, an idea, something you'd like us to try, where you are, because we want to come to you. Thank you.
And if they want to come and see you, where are you based? Upper Hill?
Yeah, Upper Hill. But I can come to you as well. Just
Oh,
let me know where you are.
So even the challenge you've thrown to us, I'd really want to figure how do we translate it? Because part of why we've created, I would want to back that idea.
Yeah, sorry, it can be as easy as obviously setting up something like this with an audience sits like this, partnering with probably the Arrival Africa, a good company, say, you know what, this is our production studios, go ahead and co-create with them. That's obviously, it can be anything. And we'll just open the plenary in just a little bit. I wanted to bring Olivier into the picture now. You believe in African creators to some extent more than they even believe in themselves, to be honest. Where does this come from, honestly?
Oh, wow. First of all, I didn't expect to be here today. I'm a bit tired, so I think I fall asleep a few minutes, so I really want to apologize. First, I'm from Martinique. Martinique is a small island of the French Caribbean. I did my DNA test a few years ago in the US. I'm 3% Kenyan, 3% Nigerian.
Wow.
And it's mixed. I've got 18 different backgrounds, mainly from Africa, but also from other countries. So that's one of the explanation. I grew up in the Caribbean with Bob Marley, Kassav, on this environment of great artists. So Caribbean is certainly one of the most prolific parts in the world to produce music. So I was very influenced by music, and I was lucky enough to travel a lot. A part of my family was also in Ivory Coast. So I get this connection with the African continent very early. And also my DNA, I am also from Africa. So I was interested to know more about the African culture. And I decided 15 years ago to move to Africa, but it was after I launched Trace. And when I was in France during a few years before launching Trace, I was running a record label named Sector A. We were producing a lot of hip-hop artists, and most of them were of African background or Caribbean background. So I always had this connection with the African continent.
Interesting. And finally, Olivier, before I allow you to sit down and rest.
No, it's okay. I slept I slept already, so I'm back. I'm back in the game.
I mean, you've handled artists and creators at different scales, from the best of the very best to the budding and upcoming, because you cover a little bit of all of them. What are some of the fundamental, probably, I wouldn't say mistakes, but where do you think sometimes it goes wrong?
Wow. I think, first of all, artists need to have a very clear vision of what they want to achieve. And they have to understand it's not easy. Sometimes it takes time. And they have also to understand that, especially now, and I should not say that like this, but when you are an artist, you are a package. Not only your voice, your artistic dimension, your editorial positioning, the way you will dress, Yemi is always a fashion victim. She's got great, and she stands out. Every day, you've got 120,000 new songs that are released. 120,000 new songs that are released. How to stand out in this very crowded environment. So I'm saying that because it's not easy to be an artist. You have to be a marketing genius. You have to be a creative genius. You have to be a business person. You have to be an artistic person, a technical person. And most of the time, it's impossible for the same person to have all this. So super important to have the right environment with the right people around you that will really bring the different dimensions that might not be your DNA or your passion. So vision, hard work, talent, you started doing by doing covers. You have to accept also many artists sometimes say, okay, they believe that they know everything from the very beginning. They have to be very humble. And they have to be very eager to learn from others. So you have to know that it's not because one song might trend a little bit on social media, it's not enough. If you want to build a career over time, you have to work, you have to be open, you have to accept some time to do things where you might not be paid the way you are expecting, but at least you will learn, you will establish contact. Especially in Africa, you have to learn how to work with brands, because You don't have music rights in Africa the way you have it in many other countries. So brands are very important. What Equity is doing, for instance, for the creative industry is very important because at the end of the day, the concert we did yesterday, we couldn't do it without partners like this. So we decided not to sell tickets. So it was part of a bigger summit, but the idea was really to bring partners that have a forward-thinking vision about what African creative industry can bring to this continent and to the young people. It was not easy to convince Equity or Safaricom or others. It took time, but it was very good because we came, I think, at a good moment. You wanted to also have these announcements about your investment for the creative industry. So, but to deal with these people requires certain, I will say, rules that most people are not really trained to get. So you have to learn. On the good news also, now it's easier than before, especially in this world of social media and AI, where whenever you've got a tough question, you can go online and find some solutions. So be humble, be curious, think big. It doesn't require more time or money to think big versus thinking small. So don't hesitate. Yesterday, a lot of people were surprised. And now I understood why it took so much time to convince partners to come, because from the very beginning, we had a big vision. We say we are going to organize one of the biggest concerts ever in Kenya. And we did it because we had the vision. We knew it was possible. It was, for us, it was not interesting to do exactly the same thing that what has been done before. And this is why we are so lucky to have this panel of artists that accepted to come. Yeah. And we decided to put also maybe different resources, different approach to bring together an event like this one. And it's also about people. When I say, we had a local partner that most of you know certainly named Big Ted, Ambassador Thomas Waka. And I told him, I'm going to bring 2 or 3 persons from outside. And he told me, no, Olivier, we don't need that. In Kenya, we've got all the right person. It's okay, no problem. Wow. We don't need other people. I say, so what do you need me? I don't need to come to Kenya. Wow. So I told him I will bring, and in fact, there were 2 or 3 persons. Sherry Silver, that you may know from Rwanda. She used to be first a choreographer, a dancer, choreographer, and now she's a creative director. And we brought Robson, who is a Brazilian technical engineer with a specialist of light, but he did work for Michael Jackson, for Grammys, Rock and Rio, Afro Nation. So he brought a lot of experience of doing this kind of setting with all the visuals that you could see. And that made also the difference. And we did work with local young technician people here. But at the end of the day, we brought also this expertise to really make the difference, because you always try to stand out. And the work also to repeat with the dancers, the rehearsal was absolutely critical to bring the difference and make what we did yesterday. And thank you again, Equity, for that.
Clearly, you're not tired, Olivier. Please, a round of applause for Olivier. Merci beaucoup. And of course, he's mentioned and he's perfectly segued into something where he's spoken about AI. And then honestly, we started with podcast together with Equity. Obviously, the good company is telling me that the next one is going to be all about AI. And I know that discussion is going to be quite interesting. Looking forward to that discussion as well. Now, we're going to open it to the floor.
My name is Dora and I'm an author. And most of the creators in the room, we don't really see ourselves as small, medium enterprises. And like Yemi said, we have to go where the money is or the food is, isn't it? So I have a question maybe directed to Zippy. Maybe what interventions or structures have you built within Equity that perhaps will help the silent, the quiet creators like us, the authors, in scaling up? I'd really like to have, you could just, give us a tester of the things you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Lawton, I was born listening to you in the morning.
Thank you very much.
Costa, good show.
Thank you.
Yemi Alade, the queen as always.
Oh.
Moses, thank you. Anyiko, thank you. Since the last I was in the panel, I've improved my content. Now finally I have a DJ deck.
Wow.
I've recorded.
Wow.
And now I am going to hold my first event. So.
Wow. Please, a round of applause, yeah?
So my question, okay, I'm going to put all my things into one big question. Mr. Olivier, how do we make sure an event is successfully without having to go into debt, Nini?
Okay.
And for the panelists, what would you advise a creator like me, people with disabilities, because that is what I'm all about. I'm all fighting. If not, there's a space for disabilities. We never get seen. I have to fight for gigs. I'm calling every class. They think I'm drunk. I have to explain this and this. So how can we brand ourselves, market ourselves? Because there's so many people with disabilities, with beautiful abilities,
Talents.
with talents.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for him. Costa, I'll start with you.
I thought we were following the order of experience. The journey of being a creative is a very lonely path. And I feel we have to accept that and then intentionally walk that path with integrity, because it's also soul fulfilling. A lot of things we do, a lot of things I also do, some of them are for me, because I feel like if I don't do them, I won't function well collectively with people. So the things I have to do to be sane and function with you people well, like make crazy music like Joey. So for this guy is my good friend for a while now. So for people like him, I'd employ him to keep making content and keep making them and learn also from people, because social media draws algorithms, draws similar people. So I keep learning from them and see the ones who are growing beyond what he wants to grow, look at what they're doing different and try and emulate that in a way that speaks to here. I think that will hit some resonance with the locals.
Yemi.
Wow, that's a very big question. He said something. He said people with disabilities have a lot of beautiful abilities. And that really stuck with me because it's obvious that this is a very, very ambitious and talented young man in front of me. You're very self-aware. You spotted the fact that from the last panel you were at or event, now you have evolved. You now have a DJ booth. You're heading on to have a festival. Why would anyone call you disabled? You seem to be a very abled person. I feel like in life, you are who you tell people that you are. I feel like you've risen above any kind of stereotype and disability, and you are showing up. You're even in the front row. You didn't go to the back. You're not hiding. I feel like a lot of young people need to know more about you. They need to rally behind you and understand that we are all given one life. And with that one life, we must do everything that we can with everything that we have, because we've been given everything that we need. And even in this room, we're surrounded by people that we should collaborate with. Don't be looking for Yemi Alade. I mean, have that in the back of your mind as a musician. Oh, you'd like to work with Yemi Alade, but what about the girl next to you that's equally as talented? Collaboration is the new gold. You have to collaborate. And I think that's what Mr. Olivier was also saying. He was literally saying he collaborated with so many people. He sent out 140 emails, proposals, and got 38 back. Well, how many emails have you sent today? How many emails have you sent? Even me, myself, how many emails have I sent? You know, so I feel like we need to understand that we are who we say we are. Most especially, we must make room for people who are less able to do what we are able to do. And we must not judge a book by its cover, because you never can tell if that is where your next meal will come from.
I think we can do better than that. Please, a round of applause for all our panelists. Thank you very much. I mean, so many lessons, so many key take-homes. And as we wrap this up, I think you have a lot of stuff that you've written on your jotter, on your notebook, that I think you need to take to the next level. I'll wrap it up with a challenge. I've already challenged you, Moses, that we need to set up a creative hub. But I'm going to throw a bigger challenge or another challenge to you. And probably some of our artists and Anyiko as well, and even all of us creatives alike. Why not, for your next event, have him as the DJ? Yeah? It shows not just your belief in him, but it becomes a platform and a shoulder that he can stand on and become one of your practical examples of you believing not only in creators, but also in creators with his different special ability, right? And to you, our creators, my challenge to you is, probably you've always desired to work with Moses, you've desired to work with Anyiko, but Yemi and Coster have said, and Olivia as well, they've said something that's very critical. Yes, we live in the advent of social media, we live in the advent of TikTok, where, I mean, you can put a song up, tomorrow you're viral, tomorrow you're popular, tomorrow you're famous. But there's fundamentals that they've shared that regardless of what generation you're in, they never go away. So today, why don't you go and set up your next profile? Start sending it. Olivier is in the country. Spam him, he'll probably block you. Look for his next email, spam him again. He'll probably block you again. Look for Zippy at the back. She's giving you the number. Don't give up. You probably sent in your first profile or first demo. She didn't look at it. Go edit it, send it again. Until the day you introduce yourself to her, she'll be like, yeah, I know you. Yeah, I know you. Don't give up. So turn to your neighbor and tell them, don't give up. But most importantly, tell them, do the work. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap this up, I want us to please put our hands together for Arrival Africa, for being a company dedicated to bridging the gap between creatives and all around Africa. Please put your hands together for Arrival Africa. G-Money somewhere all the way at the back, and a good company for putting all this together. I want us to please put our hands together for Equity, for believing in creators. Thank you very much, Equity. Thank you so much to my panelists. Thank you so much for sharing so much, for taking so much time out of your busy schedules. But thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for all of them.
I wanted to say something, please. I wouldn't be happy with myself if I don't say it. While I was coming up, there was one thing that was consistent in my career as an upcoming artist. Days of the 200 capacity that you mentioned, they were always this show called Industry Nights. It was a platform for upcoming artists to always perform. And so I believe that if Equity can put up something like that, that will go on years after years, with or without the existing staff, it would be something that artists can always look forward to, and it will be the pivotal point that, plummets us to the next level. It will become a legacy for Equity that we can always rely on. I think that would be great. Yes.
So we move from Made in Kenya to Made in Equity. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for our amazing panel.
That's it for the podcast this week. Catch you next week. But just before I leave, I just want to let you know that we're having our 4th event of the year, our Industry Talks, this Friday, 22nd of May. And we are spotlighting DJs. It's about time for us to talk about the future of Nairobi nightlife, the business, culture, and evolving sound. We're going to have a wonderful event featuring Njerai, the performing artist and singer, DJ Schwartz from Capital FM, who's a DJ, and of course, Coco M, who's a multidisciplinary artist and DJ. Looking forward to the event. In case you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please don't hesitate to drop us your queries or questions on Anyiko PR, Anyiko Owoko Industry Talks, and of course, Goethe Institute. Until then, see you next week. Ciao! This episode of VIP Access was brought to you by Equity Bank Group. Fanny Kisha, empowering women.
VIP Access Season 5 is proudly supported by the Goethe Institute, Nairobi.